both you and I, we were always alone. Always.
Am I the only sane one here? It was suicide, and even if I did, what right do you have?
But you know, there's something I've never been able to figure out. Is the Cold War really a war, or is it really peace?
I created Rex. It's my right, my duty to destroy him.
Yes?
Call me Hal. Have you ever loved someone?
That's what you came to ask?
No, I was wondering if even soldiers fall in love.
What are you trying to say?
I want to ask you, do you think love can bloom, even on a battlefield?
Yeah, I do.
Snake! What was she fighting for? What am I fighting for? What are you fighting for?
If we make it through this, I'll tell you.
Okay, I'll be searching too. Hey everybody, it's Otacon. We want to welcome you to Shadow Moses Cafe.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Shadow Moses Cafe. I am your host, Shaine Smith.
And I'm Jorin Lee. And we have a very special guest today.
A super special guest today.
Yeah.
Everybody, welcome Christopher Randolph.
Hey.
Hello, everyone. Hello.
Yay.
Nice to be here. Very nice to be here.
I'm so blessed to get to talk to you twice. Like the first Twitter Spaces, which was awesome, and then I was like gunning off that for like a month straight. Like I was like, oh, this is so awesome, and then I shot in the dark. I was like, hey, do you want to be on our podcast? And you said yes, and I was like, oh,
sure.
I was like gunning off that. I'm just so excited. So, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm fine. You know, it's the world is upside down and crazy, but I'm doing okay. I've been mostly in Massachusetts this summer, helping out my parents and kind of being away from the city. But there's been a little more back and forth than last year with vaccines and all of that kind of thing. So, and I, recorded a few things from this little closet that I'm talking to you from now. So.
I was thinking about, I see that all the time on Twitter. Like everybody's like converting their closets into recording spaces. And I'm like, I got to get in on that.
Yeah, no, it's the thing to do. The thing is that this is an old house that we've had since I was a kid. And there's really only one internal room, and it's this closet. Every other room in the house has windows facing the outside. So,
oh man, you got lucked out then.
Yeah, I soundproofed it as best I could, and
I'm sitting here like in the biggest open space ever. Like, I hope this records right.
No, you sounds fine to me.
Thank you.
It kind of actually brings up maybe the first thing we could ask you is, because I was curious, your thoughts on just how voice acting, has changed over the years since Metal Gear Solid 1, which to my understanding, you guys really kind of pioneered, recording in the same room and being able to play off each other and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on how the medium there has evolved, since those days?
Yeah, sure. I mean, certainly I think the budgets are bigger. By and large, not always, but and obviously the technology has just massively changed and improved. That first one it had already been done in Japan, and we were simply matching the English language voices to what had been done in Japanese already. And we were all in this, ramshackle studio where we had to stop every time a truck went by.
Right.
And so that was that. And then over the years, it's really changed, and then the advent of motion capture has made a huge difference. So yeah, I mean, the fundamentals are the same. You're still basically acting with your voice. It was really nice in the early days, and even in Metal Gear 2 and a little bit in Metal Gear 4, to be able to be in the same room sometimes with some of the other actors. David and I did a number of scenes actually sitting next to each other, and Jennifer Hale and I also did that a few times. But nowadays, it's almost always you're alone, and you're playing off a recorded voice, or you're playing off the voice directors reading the lines. But that's the way it works. And obviously with COVID, everybody's isolated.
Sure.
I'm so sorry. So was it like you were starting to do like isolated recordings before COVID hit, or was it like after COVID hit, like it was more isolated recordings that you were
well
seeing?
with Metal Gear 5, I never recorded with another person, and that was pre-COVID, and I went into a very fancy studio in Burbank somewhere, or I can't even remember where it was. But it really was just me playing off recordings, that the other actors had done in isolation.
Wow.
And
That's incredible.
Yeah.
But that's, or either that, or me playing off of Chris Zimmerman reading me the lines. And sometimes you're not playing off of anyone. You're just reading the lines, or
can you recall any scene where like you didn't get any direction, like you just had to read the lines?
Well, they're always listening, so you kind of dive in, and if they like what you've done, they move you on to the next line, and if they need a change, they let you know. So with Huey, and certainly with Hal, I think for all of us, we pretty much are, solidly know the characters. Mm-hmm. So it's really just a question of tone, and it's like, you'll get a direction like, no, you're falling off a bigger cliff, so you have to yell even louder, or this time you got shot in the stomach, and you got shot in the, things like that.
That reminds me of the video that like went out a couple weeks ago where like, what was it? I was going through 5, so I was like chronologically like putting it on Twitter, like me going through it, and I got to Huey, and everybody was screaming at me, "You have to throw him off the building." So I do, and the scream.
Yeah,
I was like,
that was. I remember recording that actually. That and they're very smart. They save all the screams for the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
So you'll be recording, and you'll be recording for 3.5 hours, and then it's like, okay, now we have to do the screams. So you go through the different screams and yells, and there's signs of pain and all that sort of stuff.
They don't want you blowing your throat out like
exactly,
super early.
yeah, and you have to be able to come in the next day. So, but these days you're mostly recording alone, or recording to, some voice in your headphones.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's crazy. And as the technology, has changed, I mean, do you feel, because as they were able to show, these characters in more detail, do you feel that the characters themselves sort of grew along with the technology? Did you have to bring more shades of nuance to the character as the series went on?
That's an interesting question. I think the writing grew, and therefore the performances grew. The technology is more about, can you capture what is already there? And how much of what is there can you capture? I mean, if you look at Otacon in 1 versus Otacon in 4, he's grown.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, he not only, I mean, understandably, because he's been through a whole bunch of things, and a lot of things have happened to him, and my job is to simply make sure I reflect all of that, and but I don't know if that's technology based. Yeah. I mean, with motion capture has changed things a little bit, because I remember in Metal Gear 2 we there was a recording session where they gave us a list of words that we had to say each word 3 times as the character, just random list of words, and it was to calibrate the technology system so that it could then move the mouths of our characters, depending on whatever words we said.
Interesting.
And at the time was the most advanced technology they had, but now they just do facial capture, and so they're actually visually recording the way your mouth is moving, and it matches to the sound.
Wow.
In the same way that they do full on motion capture with the ping pong ball suits
Right.
you have to wear.
Those are so fun to look at.
Yeah, it's fun, but those early facial captures, they had to come and glue little dots on my skin all over my face. And then you go into a booth, and I think there were 18 or 24 different infrared cameras.
The ones that go all around
different
you,
angles.
right? Yeah.
Well, yes, except in this case they weren't behind you. They were just sort of in front of you at all angles, and it was just from the neck up.
Oh, okay.
So there were, so there were all these little. I have a picture somewhere. There were all these little dots glued to my face, so that the camera could follow me.
I think, the acting in 5, I've said it so many times, it blew me away. I think one of my favorite lines was during Huey's kangaroo court when they were about to throw him off Mother Base. It was I thought it was real, and you could see his neck move and the emotion behind it, and it was that was amazing. That was one of the best ones. So.
No, that scene was pretty intense.
I mean, that actually brings up, I think, another question. When you think about the characters you played in this series, they tend to be the human center of these stories, because most of the other characters are almost like superhuman or superhero type almost characters. But Hal and Huey are both, they're very much the human core of these stories. Did you find that difficult to do, having to project that or portray that?
That's a great question. I mean, I actually find that easier than trying to be a superhero. I mean, I take that back. I wouldn't say easier, but to some degree more fun, and to be able to find different nuances. The thing I really enjoyed about playing Huey particularly, and also Hal is they're flawed.
Yes.
they're,
They have
Huey
great
particularly,
character
but
flaws.
you know they're flawed human beings, which we all are.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't want to get too philosophical, but you know, I think the thing that my feeling is the thing that Metal Gear 1 did for what I think is the first time with games is it made them more human, and it enabled people to connect in the same way that we connect to a movie, where you know, a well done movie where you see, you know, multifaceted human beings going through life and facing challenges. And I think the job of the actors in these games now is to be the bridge between technology and humanity.
Oh, hello. Oh,
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I can
Yeah.
hear you.
Yes.
Okay, you can hear me now.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
Okay, sorry. It's possible that it's the internet system here
yeah.
at the
Oh,
house.
yeah.
What was I saying? What was it?
It was the bridge between technology and
Oh.
humanity.
Yeah.
I mean, I really feel that that's our job, is because without, I think what I was saying is without that bridge, it's really all just numbers, you know, in the end, really, when you get down to it, it's images and numbers. And, you know, the one thing the computer really can't do now is, I think that the, you know, well acted games really bridge that gap, and that's important.
Yeah.
I don't know if people would be as interested in all these games if they were just like, you know, 1996 Doom, you know, where you're just walking through blasting, you know, aliens.
Yeah, the back in the day when, like, you know, military propaganda was like at an all-time high. So like we had to have games that, like, you know, could do no wrong, always the good guy, blast through Rambo style games. And then along comes Metal Gear Solid, where you have a main character, Solid Snake, who has been through trials and tribulations, literally has seen like hell itself and deals with it. And then of course meets Otacon, who is like, we've had this trope before in other games where, like, you know, the super smart scientists who like usually just does his job and stays out of the way. And like when this character is needed, they do the super smart science stuff and then, you know, goes away. But then we have Otacon, who's like literally like the rock of like this human foundation of like not only Snake, then there's Sonny, who, you know, Hal of course adopts, and then his you know, times with women, yeah. But you know what I mean, like, yeah. He didn't just like have his time in the sunlight and then go away when he did his science stuff. He not only did he do his science stuff, he was like the integral core of like the whole plot of the series. His relationship with his father is like super intertwined and really, really well done. And, you know, it lack thereof, the relationship. Yeah. But you know what I mean? And I would love to get into, now I want to like the fun differences of Hal and Huey, where we love to talk about Huey because, and I loved when you said it before, where you're like, you were in the booth and look at you. This is audio only, so the viewers don't see, but he's like rubbing his eyes like, oh God, here we go. But you had said before when you were in the booth, you're like, am I playing a bad guy? Because they didn't let you know on, which I think benefited you, because then I think it was like so more genuine when you would say obvious lies to Snake and company, but like you were convinced that they were the truth. And so I want to know like what your favorite parts of playing Huey was, like knowing now that his motives were more nefarious than his son.
Yeah. Well, you know, getting back to a little bit to what we were talking about just a few moments ago. I think both Hal and Huey have real vulnerability. And I think Otacon particularly was kind of the first time you saw that kind of vulnerability in a game, and that was really interesting. Huey's vulnerability is that he's a bit of a weasel, and and he, it comes down to him trying to protect himself, and trying to sort of justify, even to himself, choices that he's made that maybe are a bit questionable. And I mean, that's fine. That's interesting. Because
no, it's a good character.
We all do that. I think that's what human beings do. I just don't think there's anybody who's made perfect choices their entire life. They may not be on to the degree of bad choices that Huey.
I mean, putting your 4-year-old in a Metal Gear, locking.
But I mean, anyone who's a parent, and Shaine, I know you're a parent.
Oh yeah, I put my kids in Metal Gears all the time.
No, but I would wager that you have things that maybe you did with your kids that you look back on and go, that maybe not
all the time. You're right, all the time.
Obviously not to the degree, but I mean, Huey is a scientist first.
Yeah.
And one who was driven to push boundaries and not really looking at the moral issues around the science that he's doing.
Yeah, it was like
it's true.
So and we see that all around us, and there are strong arguments that scientists make of like, we're going to push forward and do this science, and it's for other people to figure out the moral elements of it. I think there are also, to be fair to scientists who I greatly respect, I think there are many, many, many scientists who have real moral questions about what they're doing, and they spend a lot of time and thought figuring that out. And I do believe that most scientists are, in their hearts, really working for the betterment of the world. So I just have to say that, so I don't get, I don't want scientists mad at me.
The hit out for Christopher Randolph, but I during the scientist campaign.
Right? No, I have enormous respect for science.
Me as well. Hal was kind of like the same way, where like, he was building mobile TMDs, but at the same time, like he did it for almost like the Huey aspect in Peace Walker, where he's like, I believe in deterrence. And like, you can argue if Huey was genuine in that or not, because at the time Huey was interested in pursuing his locomotion aspects, where Hal was like, yes, I want to save people, I want to help people. I literally got into this because of anime, but I still want to help people with my inventions. And then there's Huey, where it's like, I want this created so I can get the glory for it and get the recognition for it, and that's all he cared about. So when you talk about like, there are definitely scientists out there, Hal is definitely in the aspect of like, he did it for the better of man and it was used. And then there's Huey, where it's like, you used me, so I'm gonna like literally like use people to smear blood all over the walls to get it back. Like, and he did it in Peace Walker, that one line where after Big Boss recruits Huey, and he says it in a tape, and like you would miss it if you weren't really looking out or listening out for it, where he's like, I can't remember it verbatim, but he's like, at the end of it, he says, and I'll use your power to help me do it. And then like Huey then goes, only if you'll let me, of course. Where he like catches himself, like he's like in the grasp of like, I got to get it back no matter what. And I'm going to use this guy who can hold guns to make me look good, because all I do is work on machines. So I'm going to use this guy that actually kills people to better myself. And it catches up with him in 5, but
it does. Yeah. It does.
No, it totally does. But you know, I mean, it's interesting what you bring up, because we all, I think, have deeply personal motivations for the work that we do on one level or another. And, you know, Huey's disability, you know, as a sort of a motivation to create, you know, mobile machines is very interesting.
Yeah.
And you know, I think Hal, I mean, you can really go deep psychologically with this if you want, but you could argue that Hal, you know, because of just the messed up family life that he had, you know, is looking for love and respect, you know, more than power. Whereas Huey is in the end sort of looking for power more than anything else.
He did say he wanted to surpass his father, who created the bombs that dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So he wanted to do anything that would make him believe that he was better than his father, that would made these horrible things. So it seems like he would make something even more horrible to surpass it, if not, like, he could convince himself that what he was doing was good.
Yeah.
I think it's actually really ironic, you know, when you think about it, that the characters that you play in this series, even though they're scientists, they tend to be in some ways the most blind. Do you know what I mean? Like Hal he genuinely seems to have no idea that, you know, Rex is not just a defensive weapon. And Huey, in a way, is just so much in denial about so much, it seems, through much of the game. So
yeah, you think so? Yeah, no, yeah, it's true. I mean, and I think Hal's blindness comes from a kind of an innocence and you know, an innocence that he gradually loses as the series goes forward, but that I think he's always on some level inside him trying to kind of protect.
Yeah. You think you see that with Sunny, where, like, you know, he keeps her inside the Nomad because he knows what's out there.
Oh, yeah.
He does not, like, oh, she's still she's not been born yet.
Sure. And he's trying to protect some level of innocence in the world, you know. And Sunny's a nice reflection of that. And by then, a lot of his innocence is gone, right?
By 4, it's there's no way.
You know, but he's, you know, he's maintaining that. It's very loving in a way. You know, it's kind of parental. You know, how long can you maintain the Santa Claus myth for your children?
Right. I mean, Big Boss still believes in Santa Claus, so
right. Big Boss could be Santa Claus for all.
Oh my God. I'm gonna tell my kids that.
There you go.
My daughter, she loves Metal Gear Solid, and Naked Snake is her favorite. So if I told her that, she'd stay up.
That's perfect.
But yeah, you're right. Where it's like, you know, let me formulate my thoughts here for a second. Hal, by Metal Gear Solid 4, which is one of my favorite Metal Gears, only because, like, I said it in like a series of tweets where it's like a lot of games that are heavy will make you play all these heavy moments, and then you hit a cutscene and it's like a break because it's like it's a continuation of the story. A fly just flew by me. I hate that. Please cut that out. Anyway, so it's like you hit a cutscene and it's like a break because you get to watch this cutscene. All this heavy stuff just happened, and then you can just like take a break, just watch this cutscene, and the story moves on. Where in Metal Gear Solid 4, it's like heavy stuff happens, and then a cutscene comes, and like more people just get hurt. It does not let you take a break, and like more stuff keeps happening?
Yeah.
And like these cutscenes are so long. They have the Guinness Book of World Records, like the longest cutscene in a video game and the longest sequence of cutscene in a video game. And it's just stuff that's like does not stop. And like you see a lot of Hal going through pretty much every emotion in the book, like almost every cutscene where it's like either if he's explaining something happens with like when Sonny will say something and you just see like the little smile on his face because he's proud, and then like Campbell will say something that like, you know, in the story that's like, you know, Liquid's over here, you missed him, you got to go get him, and like you can see that he's upset. And it's just like I don't know where I'm going with this. I just know that like in 4 it is probably one of the most heavy, hard-hitting games I've ever played in my life. But you can definitely, if you were to play 1 and then right after that 4, it is like 2 different Hal Emmerichs. Because you've got Hal from Metal Gear Solid 1 who wants so badly to believe that like what he was doing was good because he was going to help people. And then by the end of the game, he's like, he sees the light and then they get out if you do the Otacon route and kill Meryl, which you should not do.
Right. I agree. Yeah.
But in 4, it's like after living with Snake for over 9 years, adopting Sonny, he eventually adopts Sonny later, but you know, like taking care of Sonny, going through all of Big Shell itself, and then getting to the Nomad, living there for so long, and it's like he can't escape it anymore. And by 4, I think he's convinced, he's finally like come to the realization where it's like, this is the real world. So I think that's where Jorin was saying, like, they were blind at first. Huey woke up at the end of like 5 where he got kicked off, where he realized he couldn't keep up the lies anymore. And then, but that was like a retribution. Where Hal, it was like an awakening, where it was like, I can't stay blind to the real world anymore, but I can still help, which you see with like Metal Gear Mark II, super cute little mobile TND, you know, helping you out, where he's still making machines, but they're definitely for the good.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think all that's really true. I think Mr. Kojima has always wanted to bridge the gap between movies and games. And I think in 4, he really was kind of making a movie that you can participate in. As close as one could come given the technology at the time. And I mean, we're still headed in that direction. It's gonna happen eventually, with the, you're gonna be able, it'll be like the holodeck on Star Trek.
I love it.
Just about, you probably have to put on a suit and goggles, and you'll pay to go into a room, and you will actually be part of a story.
That would be so rad.
Which will be really cool. It's a few years away yet, but
speaking of the movie,
yeah,
who do you think should play Otacon in the movie?
Well, other than me,
yeah, right. We were sitting here like, with the right makeup department. Oh my god, he could kill it.
Yeah.
People have asked me that, and I have not been able to come up with a really good answer. You're assuming that you want a name, a known actor, which I'm continue to put in a plug for myself because it's not,
it could work.
That is not necessarily what you need. I mean, they have Oscar Isaac. And so you need to find someone who'll play off of Oscar Isaac. I mean, it kind of depends on where they set the age
and that's
levels in the movie, and I really don't know what Jordan has up his sleeve with that.
Do you think it would be smart to like just do the Shadow Moses story, or like sequel bait every movie and like start from the beginning from 1964?
You know, I mean, I throw that question back to you because no, I mean, you got to think about it's this balance that you always have to maintain when doing something like this, where you have to satisfy the gamers who love the series and know it really well. But you also have to introduce and bring into the fold people who know nothing about it at all.
The problem was, like in Metal Gear Solid 1, they introduced Gray Fox, who was an already introduced character, which by the time we got in America, we didn't know who Gray Fox was. Zanzibar Land didn't know what Zanzibar Land was because we didn't get Metal Gear and Metal Gear 2 until Metal Gear Solid 3 when they Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence when they introduced it in the thing, and that's when everybody in the West got to be like, oh, so that's what they were talking about in Metal Gear Solid.
Right. Yeah, and you know, I mean, look at the movies that have been made from games. You know, I think financially a number of them have been very successful. Whether they're really good movies or not, is debatable. So it's always really risky. So I don't know. I think that they could find a sort of a hybrid way to approach it where you're introducing characters, but at the same time, it's not a repeat of the story that is already known.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm not writing it. I know David Hayter at one point had a script that he was trying to float around. That was quite a while ago.
For real?
Wow.
And of course he's, and I mean, I don't think that's the one that Jordan Roberts is working on.
Oh yeah, of course.
But you know, David's a very successful screenwriter among many other things. So
everybody has to watch Warrior Nun. The season 2's coming out soon.
Yeah, highly recommended. Highly recommended. He's been in Spain, you know, as supervising producer for the last 3 months or something, in, you know, living in a villa in Spain.
Wow.
He actually invited me to come, hang out.
That would have been awesome.
I couldn't do it, but you know, maybe for season 3, maybe next summer.
That would be awesome. Madrid's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean this is really off track, but
we do that all the time.
The settings of Warrior Nun are very beautiful. Really, really beautiful, and it's a fun series.
Shout out to David Hayter. We love Warrior Nun.
Yes, huge fan all around. I was actually curious your thoughts because I know that, you know, you, as Shaine was telling me that, you know, you maintain Huey's innocence, or at the very least the idea that not all is as it seems there. And I was curious your thoughts because, you know, to me, that whole ordeal with Huey, I think that even if, as you were saying before, you know, this is a human being who has flaws and he's made mistakes, and some of those mistakes have been pretty big, that doesn't necessarily mean that he did the thing that he's being accused of. And when I saw that scene, what I was weirdly thinking of for some reason in the back of my head was the whole debacle with Saddam Hussein and the WMDs and all of that. And, you know, just because this was a bad guy, well, it turned out that didn't necessarily mean that this horrible thing that people were thinking about him ended up being true. So do you think that it's, I just would like to hear, you know, your thoughts on that in terms of Huey's guilt and that whole, you know, do you feel he was scapegoated in a way?